Hello, thank you for listening to 3 Legacies Recovery Recordings. If you enjoy our program, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share with a friend. We're also self-supporting, so feel free to contribute to the channel through Venmo at Recovery Recordings 615. Please note that the views expressed on this podcast are solely our individual views and do not represent any official stance of any 12-step program. We are not affiliated with any specific recovery organization, and this content should not be considered as professional advice for alcoholism or addiction.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to 3 Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast. I'm your host, Paul. Today is Sunday, August 31st, 2025, and this is episode 63. You can reach us at our email address, which is recoveryrecordings615@yahoo.com. You can also find us. We have a private Facebook page. It's 3 Legacies Recovery Recordings Podcast. Get on there and send us a friend's request. We'd love to add you to the page. You can also find us on Audible, Spotify, iHeartRadio, several other major platforms, Podomatic. And we have several cool, great episodes actually coming up. We have one that we've postponed. Supposed to be about 2 weeks ago. Renee E. from Lebanon, Tennessee, is going to be on the show tomorrow. We had some conflicts. I was a little bit under the weather about 2 weeks ago, so we weren't able to record the episode. We're going to do our episode tomorrow, and it's steps 10 and 11. We're calling it Carrying the Vision of God's Will into All Our Activities, and I'm super stoked about that. Tonight, we have it's been long awaited. I've been waiting on this individual for a while. We've been discussing these shows now for probably 3 or 4 months now, and briefly. And I'm super excited about this. It's Jerry P. from Palouse, Washington. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, good, Paul. Nice to be here.
Yeah. Can you hear me good? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Nice. And Jerry is coming all the way from Palouse, Washington. How's everything going in Palouse?
It's slow. Nice small town in rural America.
Yeah, nice. What's a lot of meetings in your area, groups? What's going on there?
Yeah, there are actually. We're very close to 2 college towns, University of Idaho and Washington State University. So there are a lot of meetings, one every day at least.
Nice. Yeah.
And I'm a member of Three Forks group of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've been a member of that group I was counting it up today, knowing we were going to talk. It's over 25 years, which is kind of crazy.
Wow. Very nice, very nice. And speaking of your sobriety date, you just celebrated 39 years. It's August 6th, 1986. Congratulations.
Well, by the grace of God and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, right?
Yeah, I hear you did. Yeah. This is the last thing on the agenda. This was not on the agenda at all for me. Right. Yeah, I get it.
Right.
So let's talk a bit about let's talk about just a little bit of your history. Where did you get sober at?
I actually got sober in the town that Washington State University is located in Pullman, Washington. I'm from the East Coast. I grew up in Boston, and I came to the West Coast on a geographical. And just for those who are scoring this, it didn't work. In fact, I was drunk by the time I changed planes in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And but yeah, so I came out here ostensibly to go to school, and I drank my way through college and scraped through and got a degree. But it's a progressive illness, right? And so I got into business. Unfortunately, I bought a bar.
Nice.
Yeah, got sick of paying my own tab. But that just accelerated everything. And I crashed and burned on August 5th.
Wow.
And it, ended up in the emergency room. And from there, I went to a treatment center and then came out and actually, I kind of stayed around the periphery of AA for a while. And that didn't work. the old timers say there's more to not drinking than not drinking. And, I just couldn't hear it, I guess. And so I rattled, show up late, leave early, that type of thing. I didn't want to commit to anything, and it really availed me nothing,
Yeah.
I'm not sure it was even a half measure. It might have been a quarter measure.
Nice. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but until really I got so desperate not drinking, with really the insanity of alcoholism. The bedevilments on page 52, in the middle of there, page 52, it's like that's what my life was like.
Yeah.
I finally got enough pain and desperation, asked someone to sponsor me, and his name was Sam C., an unbelievable individual, very committed to AA, and he took me through the steps, and lo and behold, I had a spiritual experience of the educational variety, but I could feel a rearrangement inside of me in the ninth step as I was doing my amends. And at that point, we went through the steps, and then I wanted to go to the traditions right away, and he told me no, I'd have to go live it for a while, and I was highly insulted by that. But the traditions became important to me because I had such a profound experience.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. I mean, it's like, wow. It really blew my hair back, to be honest. And it's like, wow, this is, And so part of the requirements of me for Sam to sponsor me is I had to get a service position.
Nice.
And Sam had been in service at the area level. He'd been service in a lot in corrections, did some amazing corrections work.
Yeah.
And so I got introduced to service. And I got introduced to the traditions. And then Sam did take me through the traditions. And I value AA very much. It's not in a negative way, but I feel responsible to Alcoholics Anonymous. It's given me everything. Anything good in my life is due to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Amen.
And I just, I've been around a little bit, and I just feel like, because Sam told me when we went through the book together, and we hit page 164, he shut the book and looked at me and goes, now your job is to make sure the new guy gets the same shot at this thing that you got.
Nice.
And I have taken that to heart, and I hold that in my heart today. And so in that way, I really, try to the best of my ability, keep to that. And traditions are a big part of that, obviously, in service.
Yeah, nice. So what? And Sam, where was he from? Because Don P. wasn't his sponsor Don P.
Yeah. So Don was up in Aurora, and Sam was down in Denver.
Okay.
In the Colfax group.
Gotcha.
And so Don, and I hung out with Don a few times. A nice man. And obviously Don was very much involved in world service. Really he's one of the guys who brought AIDS to Russia.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he had quite a story. Yeah. I mean, I was so fortunate to have Sam. I know I'm so fortunate to have Sam. I really amazing person, and not trying to be dramatic, but the dude saved my life. It's just what he gave me, I can never repay.
Yeah, I understand that. Nice, man. For all the listeners, me and Jerry are starting. This is going to be our first. We're going to do a 12-part series. I think we're going to skip weeks, so we're going to do every other week. So far as planned. Tonight is our tradition 1, and we're going to be going through the traditions. And we've done several, or I've done several on the show, several different series on traditions, and they're in different ways. Let's see, we have Juanita Yu has been doing applying the 12 traditions to your family life, and then we've had Judy L that's been doing traditions in all our affairs, which is similar to the applying the traditions in our family life. And then, so what we're going to be doing tonight, or starting tonight, is one on just the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous, and how they kind of came about and why they're so important, and our personal experience with them, and and why they've played such a major role in our own personal lives and in the groups we've been involved in. So, Jerry, you said you have the long form in front of you.
I sure do.
Okay, I'm going to read. What I'll do is we'll start. I'm going to read the short form, and then you read the long form, and then we'll just kind of go into like what our experience is with it.
Very good.
Is that cool?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. So, for those that are listening, there's a short form which you probably if you go to your average most Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, you'll see the 12 traditions on the wall. And you'll usually have the short form hanging on the wall, and that is: our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. Okay.
And then the long form states, and at the beginning of the long form, it says, our AA experience has taught us that, and then it says, number one, each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is but a small part of a great whole. AA must continue to live, or most of us will surely die. Hence, our common welfare comes first, but individual welfare follows close afterward.
Nice. It's funny for me. It's backwards, or I shouldn't say backwards, but it's opposite than what we come in. It's, for me, anyways. Obviously, I come in here. I'm selfish, self-centered, self-seeking, and I'm sitting there. Screw all this. Screw every. It's all about me.
Right.
And this is like the complete opposite of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about humility.
Yeah. Go into a little bit of your personal experience on how what.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, it's funny. Talk about Sam one more time. It's hard for me not to talk about Sam because he gave me so much.
Yeah.
Is that when I met with him and we sat down in a pizza joint and we talked, he was going to let me know how he sponsors and if I, we'll come to agreement. If I wanted to do that, he would sponsor me. And as we spoke, he said, now look, I'm not going to give you my opinion on what I think about anything. What I'm going to give you is my experience drunk and sober, because that is of value. And so I just thought about that the other day as I was kind of preparing for this. And that's the traditions. They're based, as Bill W. said, they were hammered out on the anvil of experience,
Yeah.
And there was a lot of pain, and people got drunk and people died. As they learned and they put together the traditions, which came from the fellowship itself, because the groups are forming. AA was really expanding. This is in the 40s, and they Bill used the grapevine, the AA grapevine, to introduce the traditions to the fellowship, and I think it was called the 12 Points to Assure Our Future.
Yeah, I love that.
But where it all came from was all these letters that were coming into the head. They had that little office in New York on like 24th or something, and all these letters came in with problems in groups, and what should we do here, and what should we do that here, and through. Like they couldn't answer the letters fast enough either. I mean, they answered them, but there were so many inquiries that Bill took those and somehow organized those and distilled those, whatever you want to call it, and put together the traditions. And beginning in 1946, grapevine by grapevine, he would introduce the traditions to the fellowship.
Yeah.
And so evidently some folks got sick of him talking about it, but some probably still do.
Yeah.
But, and like you were saying, I try to practice the traditions in my life outside of AA. I mean, they're great guideposts, one, we're talking about unity, right? And so I apply that to my personal life and my marriage. What's the spiritual aim of my marriage is unity and humility. And so for me, they're very applicable to my everyday life. I used them when I'm retired now. When I worked, I had that framework laid over my work life too. And they're just very kind of practical guideposts. And Bill always said they were suggested and never kind of required. But, he also said there are two great disciplinarians, a loving God and John Barleycorn, so the great persuader.
Nice. Yeah. It's crazy how, when unity, sometimes I can just get in a situation and lose touch, self's getting all over the place, right? And I'll lose touch and just be like, our common welfare should come first, right? And that can kind of shift me back over to what we're really here for, right? Like, and me and Judy were talking, and Judy made the comment, and I loved it. She said, I make different decisions when unity is what I'm aiming for, right?
Yes.
And that's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a whole another perspective that doesn't come easily to this alcoholic,
Yeah, absolutely.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
And exactly. I forgot what I was going to say. There's something about experience, but
it's all right. Yeah, it'll come.
Oh, that the first tradition's about unity, and the rest of the next 11 traditions are how to achieve and protect that unity.
Yeah.
So, in a selfish way, we look at tradition number 1. Well, we better hold AA together, because I'm thinking, I'm not sure I'd last long without Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
And unless we take care of it, it has to be taken care of. I just don't believe that if we all, went our separate ways and whatever, and AA kind of went by the wayside, that would do very well. I don't think so. AA has given me so much. And like your friend, it's like, it's in the, our common welfare comes first. And that's kind of links into this whole idea when we talk about, well, to keep it, you have to give it away.
Yeah.
And that's the idea too of tradition 1 is I have to give humble service to Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah. And try to be an example of traditions and be the unpopular guy sometime in my home group or district or something, and bring up a tradition and wondering if we're violating it in some way. Yeah. And sometimes it's hard, for members out there to speak up when kind of the flow of a meeting or like a business meeting is going one direction. You're sitting there looking at traditions, go, boy, I don't know. I think maybe we better talk about this. The 7th tradition is often one in our home group.
Yeah.
About the use of money, and people have ideas about how the money should be used.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's just hard to raise your hand and go, well, this is what I was thinking about. And it may not be popular, or, at least it's something that hadn't been brought up yet.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit to be able to do that.
Amen.
Well, I encourage everyone to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how, when you say that, like, it's funny how important it is to have, and this is something that I've just, discovered over the last year or so, but how important it is to have the recovery portion in your life, right? If you don't have like a loving God that you can tap into and trust, it's going to be extremely difficult to do some of this stuff, right? Like
exactly.
if I'm still ran by fear, yada yada yada, and there's it's just still little old Paul dropped off in this world, that's going to be more challenging. Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally makes sense. The foundation, and that's why Sam said, you know what, we're not going through traditions right now. You need to live this thing in your life, the 12 steps.
Yeah. And
so, because the base of that triangle is recovery.
Yeah.
And then unity and service in the equilateral triangle. So I agree wholeheartedly with you on that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you look at also, if you think of, what was it? Was it 46? Was that when he really started?
Yeah, they started.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you think of 46, right? I mean, at the time, what Bill got sober in 34?
5.
35.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he got sober in 34. That's right. And then
he met
with Bob in 35.
Yeah, he met Bob. So then you think of it, Alcoholics Anonymous was nothing like it is right now as far as numbers wise, right? So when you see like, let's just say 1946, how, they finally see that they've found something that's freaking working, right? And they're like, holy crap, like this is something big is happening here. And like you said, all the letters come flooding in or whatever. And if you look at that situation, how vital it was that they come up with some of this stuff, because if not, it ain't going to, it's 90 years old right now, right? There's no way it was going to last 90 years had it not been for some of this stuff, right?
That's right.
So
that's right. And
they seen how important it was.
Yeah, and the book came out in 1939.
Yeah.
So it exploded, and they were kind of surprised that in print they could carry the message as well. And I think that really led to a lot of what you're talking about, these guys and the way business was. There was a lot of business travel, like locally in the Midwest and the East Coast and stuff. And they would, have a copy of the big book and work with other alcoholics in different areas. And I would just suggest, because we're talking about, okay, this is all based on experience. Well, some of the experience is pretty remarkable, some of the stories, and I would highly recommend 3 books. And the first one is Alcoholics Anonymous Comes of Age, which is the history of AA, and to me, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And then there's Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers, and then there's Pass It On, the story of Bill Wilson. And in through those 3 books are many anecdotes about this experience and how these traditions came about and what actually happened that led them to think, okay, we don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And and I like the AA tradition, how it developed, because some of those are original writings that he wrote in the Grapevine in 1946.
Yeah.
So as you can tell, I love the history of AA.
Yeah, no, I love it. And also, real quick, for the listeners, if you'd like to go back and find some of those articles, Alcoholics Anonymous published a book called The Language of the Heart. And that was some of Bill's, I think it was the majority, I don't know if it was all of them, but it was the majority of his writings and that was his publications to the Grapevine. And you can find all the original essays that was in the Grapevine in The Language of the Heart. Speaking of, let's see, Monty, there's a buddy of mine that's another podcaster. His name's Monty. He's got a podcast called Take 12 Radio. Him and Chris S. from New Jersey actually went through, I think it was 100 episodes they did.
Oh, wow.
They went through every one of the articles, or every one of the articles that Bill had in The Language of the Heart. And there's a whole series. If you're interested in hearing that, go over to take12radio.com or just Take 12 Radio, and there's you can get on the website and find they went through every one of the articles. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of goes into like what we were talking before we started recording is how important, like my personal experience was when I first started getting into some of the traditions with my last sponsor. He was like, Paul, we don't do stuff like that in AA. And I'm sitting there like, we've been doing this. And, I'm sitting there, I'm still, selfish, to the core, right? And I'm like, but we have been doing this, and you don't understand, we have been doing it. And he was like, yeah, but I'm not saying we don't do stuff like this in AA, but we probably shouldn't. And what it did was it led us into, he started taking me through some of the early history of Alcoholics Anonymous and how vital it was to see, like when you have an understanding when you start reading some of that history and you start seeing the problems that AA we ran into in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
You start seeing how important that is. And you need that context. Otherwise, it just seems like people are trying to control it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. I had similar experience because Sam would say to me all the time, he goes, yeah, we don't do that in AA.
Yeah. after
he saw me do something or at a district meeting, he said, yeah, we don't do that in AA.
Yeah.
It was about the traditions.
Yeah.
And, but, it's like you, is this recovery thing became so in the forefront of everything in my life is when the traditions really like, okay, and then to read that history, like you were saying, really read the stories, like the early breaks of anonymity, and they thought that was just going to tear AA asunder.
Yeah.
They were so upset, and oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes they were well-meaning. Marty M. and what she did. Was well-intentioned, but you can't stick the name of AA on it.
Yeah. What was it? I forgot. What was it that she went through?
She started one of the early organizations to treat alcoholism.
Oh, okay, yeah. Gotcha.
I used to know what it was.
Yeah, gotcha.
But she was well-meaning.
Yeah.
And I think maybe she went on the radio or something, and you just needed to take AA out of it. Oh, I wish I could remember the organization. But
yeah,
they were, a lot of it was well-meaning. I mean, and I mean, some were kind of power drivers.
Yeah.
And look for opportunity to monetize their recovery, shall we say.
Right.
And I mean, really, they talked about it early on, and that was the idea with the first royalties of the book and kind of, the John D. Rockefeller meeting.
Yeah.
Now, so this was to get financial backing. Mm-hmm. And our friends knew better than we did.
Yeah.
Because that was a setup to ask for money. And Rockefeller realized that the money would harm us, would harm our society. And so he's the one who said, yeah, I think money would really be a problem with you guys. So I'm going to decline to, make any large contribution. I think he did some things, but not at because we, Bill and Bob were talking about hospitals, banks. I mean, the whole, housing. They really, and again, well-meaning.
Yeah.
And, but it quickly, and other members, and that's the beauty of this thing too, is the other members pulled them back. No, Bill, but we can't do that.
Yeah.
Because this and this and this would happen, and this would happen. And, and when he was writing the big book and he ran it by those 100 people, and they gave him feedback, it was really written by more than Bill. Because he would take the manuscripts to them. Mm-hmm. And so it often, and that's why when I was like a DCM and I went down the pyramid of service down to DCM. Mm. But as a GSR, I was taught this at a business meeting. There's always someone who doesn't talk. It's often a newcomer. Ask the newcomer to ask what they think. And oftentimes they'll bring us right back to the basics. Like, we've got all these shining ideals and stuff. And then the newcomer will say, well, actually, when I showed up, this was my experience. It's like, oh,
yeah,
we got to do better than that.
Yeah.
But it is, because we, get these ideas, right? We're all, I'd say there's no one is too stupid for AA, but there's a few of us that are too smart, and we come up with these ideas,
Yeah.
And we need to be tempered, shall we say, from time to time.
Yeah. And so, how long was it until you? How long had you been sober when you actually started going through the traditions? And what was that experience like? What literature did y'all go through, and how that looked?
Okay. Yeah. So, before I really got sober, I stopped drinking in 1986 in August. But like I said, I hung around the edges of AA, and I do not recommend that by any stretch of the imagination. It is not pleasant. And then I finally gotten enough pain to ask for help. And so I was probably close to 3 years sober.
Yeah.
Before I got in the book. And then after, I met once a week, and I forget how many weeks it took, a number of weeks to get to the book. And then Sam, who was, again, a lot of experience in service. And so the literature we used were actually the 3 books that I mentioned before: Alcoholics Anonymous, Comes of Age, Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers, and Pass It On with Bill Wilson's story. And then we also used the 12 Traditions Illustrated.
Nice.
And I think that is now, if not already, has been revised.
I love that pamphlet.
I do too, because the artwork is hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same artist that was used in the Grapevine years ago.
Nice.
And I love the sitting on a branch and one guy's sawing the branch off.
I love that.
First tradition.
Yeah.
And so we read that, and then the AA tradition, how it developed.
Yeah.
And these were the writings that Bill developed for the grapevine.
Nice.
And then in there is a lot of the experience of kind of what happened as well. And so we used that, and went through, and it was the same as it was with the steps. He read to me, I listened,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was vital, because at that point too, I was, I might have been alt GSR or something, and really we had a very healthy, at that time, as the previous home group that I had back in the early '90s, that it was a very big group, and our business meetings, I don't know, 20 people anyway.
Yeah.
And so there was lots of opportunity for service. And then certainly as it became GSR, and we're going to talk about that in Tradition 2, about that experience with how the group conscience develops, conscience. And so that's when, and I went back to Sam with various questions also. But there it was. And I learned through that service of how to apply these traditions.
Yeah.
And just the service structure and all of that. But now I've sponsored a number of guys. I still sponsor guys, and I've got someone in the traditions right now.
Nice.
And of course, after we did the steps, I told him he's not ready. He had to wait a little bit. He was slightly insulted as well. But now we've started the traditions, and it's just wonderful. I mean, to be a student of AA history, I think is really valuable. And then it's like, then the traditions really mean something. It's not something, they tack that up on the wall and they don't think we should do these things, you know?
Yeah.
But it's not that at all.
Yeah.
It was really what happened with real people's lives. And some people died before the traditions were developed. Yeah. And they were very, very, the hardest lessons, I guess, you could learn. And when they developed these traditions. So it wasn't, we slam them up on the wall and there are the rules. The whole fellowship was beset by a lot of these problems.
Yeah.
And, Bill had, I think, I'm not going to call him a visionary, but he had, some moments of real clarity, and to write the traditions based on these letters that he was getting, I think was really genius.
Yeah. It opens up so much, man. Like for me, I love how you just touched on, you went through general service and then that really started coming to life for you. That's kind of my experience as well. Also, the situation at the time when my sponsor had started taking me through a lot of the history and when we started going through the traditions, how there was a lot of situations, a lot of issues that my home group was going through at the time, right? And like, as me and him started going through these, like the history, I was like, holy crap, like some of the situations that my group was dealing with, the problems that we were dealing with, had we been applying these principles, the situations would have just completely dissolved, right?
Right.
And so I tell you, I think having that experience got me like a newfound love for them. Like I think, this is probably just BS, but there's a side of me that feels like if someone's just been taught this stuff since day one and they don't understand, they don't have any context on how important it is, right? And I was sitting in the middle of this, and I remember thinking, like, holy crap, man! Like, there's so much to this, and also it goes back into when you talk about the general service, what really came to life was whenever I started taking meetings into the treatment centers, right? So, and if you look at like our common welfare coming first, it's about serving something bigger than me, right? It's I'm here representing, when I go to the treatment facility, I'm representing Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And
that's right.
And what's the most effective way that we've found to establish and maintain that relationship with the facility and keep it in a healthy manner, right? And that's where the traditions really come into play. And like today, we just did a workshop in my district. We've joined. I told you earlier, we joined our treatment and our corrections committee. And what we try to do is we try to, when we do quarterly workshops, and we're trying to have some motivation to go in a certain direction, have something to pass on to the next people that are coming, and have something, pretty well established. And also, something as simple as like, so our terminology we're using is inside coordinator, outside coordinator, right? So your inside coordinator is like the facility has an inside person that you talk to, and then the outside coordinator is one of us on AA on the outside, right?
Right.
So, you got to think of it like, the facility that's 10 minutes down the road from here, there's 15 of us that go in there on a pretty regular basis, right? How jumbled up can that get if we had 15 people trying to talk to 5 or 6 different people in there, right? And also, so the person that has that role, that position, which currently right now it's me, it's important that I have somewhat of an understanding on how important and what kind of a role that these traditions play. Because, for example, if it's someone that let's just say someone that's 6 months sober, 3 months sober, they come in and they're like, okay, I want to go to these treatment centers, right? And they go in there, you could see, how jumbled up it could get really, really, really fast. And how, what these traditions really do is it's a set of principles that we can apply to, maintain a healthy relationship with the facility and realizing that we're serving something bigger than us, right?
I think that's so important, especially with treatment centers, because this can get real fuzzy with treatment centers, right?
Yeah.
Because with the separation of AA versus a treatment center, and treatment centers use 12 steps and all those things, which is, their right to do. And so you really have to work hard, especially with treatment centers, to really separate and, bring that information forward that we're a separate entity. Than the treatment center. And we don't run treatment centers, but these are the things we do.
Yeah.
And especially too, and this with the corrections background, it's hard to get into institutions.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work to keep a healthy relationship. You're talking about 15 different guys calling them and stuff, but because if at some point they say we don't want you anymore, it's really hard to get back in. We got into a correctional facility that I think AA hadn't been in 20 years.
Wow.
Because they had a bad experience. And so it is so important with those institutions where the traditions just absolutely are a great, guideline for how we do that work.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, going back to what we were talking about with the workshop, it's one of those situations where you start seeing when you get involved in this stuff how vital that is, right? Like how vital something as simple as terminology. Like when we say inside coordinator, what does that even mean? Right? When we say outside coordinator, what does that even mean? Right? And it's crazy because so when we first stepped into the positions that we are, when I say we, Dustin, a guy named Dustin G, which just moved here actually from Colorado over the last year or so, that took that position in the corrections. It was a situation where there wasn't, barely anything established, right? There was no real relationships between our district and the facilities that we're currently going in. There was a little bit, but it was real washy, right? And so really, what we've discovered is like how vital it is to have these workshops just to put everybody on the same page. Also, like to make it kind of attractive to where, like, so the next term when we rotate out for the next person, we have something somewhat established for them to where
100%.
And also when you have those the inside outside coordinator and all these different positions that people are willing to man that position. It makes your position a whole lot easier.
Doesn't it?
It does. I mean, because it's kind of like a well-oiled machine, right?
Mm-hmm. And, if you look at the workbooks, like the corrections workbook and treatment workbook and whatever, it's based on experience.
Yeah.
And that's what those workbooks are about. Here's kind of what works and here's what doesn't work. And this is the way we found useful way to organize things and whatnot. Yeah. And again, it's all, based on experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, it's funny because we're on tradition one, but I don't really know that it's really possible to talk about any of them without talking about certain other ones, right? And if really look at one in particular, like what you just touched on earlier was how do you stay unified, right? And it's by understanding how to apply the rest of these principles, right?
Correct.
And so it's just huge, man. It's changed my recovery in so many different ways.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, sounds corny, but really the traditions in AA are the framework of my life.
Mm.
And
Nice.
AA changed everything about me.
Yeah.
And, I'm just, so grateful for that.
Yeah.
And, as my friend Steve says, well, if you're so grateful, what are you doing in service? Are you in service?
Yeah.
What are you doing to help AA,
Yeah.
And that's a legitimate question as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting because when I first started doing service, this is just funny. It's a true story, but I was my last sponsor had took me to my first assembly, and this is probably 3 years ago, and went to the assembly. And at that point, I was going to a correction facility almost for a year. Right, I'd been going maybe once or twice a month for about a year at that point, and I was doing it because I was just thought it was fun. It's like, man, I'm having fun with this. I had no clue anything about service. I did know bits and pieces, but I didn't understand anything about the traditions or realizing that I was serving something bigger than me. I just thought I was having fun, right?
Yeah. Well, it's the ride to and the ride back, right?
Yeah. So I was sitting in a corrections. There were, in the assembly there had this big corrections meeting. There's probably 100 people in there, or maybe 80 people in this room, and they went to each individual person to person to person to person, and was like each person was sharing what they were doing in corrections, and just kind of bringing everything to light, being more mindful to the area. And it got to me, and there'd been about 20 or 30 people that was in front of me sharing their experience, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm currently going to the facility I was going to," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm just having fun with it." And then it was funny because I walked away from that weekend realizing, like, "Holy crap, this is way bigger than what I thought." This is way bigger than what I thought. Like there's actually a purpose for this. Which is to the continuation of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? I mean, how are there's so many unmet needs out there in your area or your district or whatever it's an unmet need, and how would AA really continue if we wasn't out there trying to find people and letting people know Alcoholics Anonymous offers treatment for alcoholism, right?
Right. Yeah. There is a solution.
Yeah.
And this is our experience at least my experience is this is what worked for me.
Yeah.
And that's, again, I say, well, tell my sponsees I've got my experience drunk and sober, and that's what I can offer to you,
Yeah.
And when I did this happened. I had this spiritual experience.
Yeah.
And in the traditions I was thinking about when you're talking about the assembly or the conference was I really kind of helped me grow up the traditions, because then I got to learn in service, especially like at the area level and at other levels, but to really how to interact with people in service, and how the first tradition really is operative in that way. Am I, complaining? Yeah. Am I trying to, undercut some idea that's going around, or, all those things that can happen.
Yeah.
In our gatherings, or am I, get the big I out of the way, get my ego out of the way.
Yeah.
And really listen to what people are saying rather than what I think needs to happen.
Yeah.
And I really grew up. I really did. Grew up as a person in service of Alcoholics Anonymous. Because I didn't always get my way, and I used to really like to get my way. And we'll talk more about that next time.
Yeah.
We talk about the group conscience.
I love that, man. Yeah, and that's what we'll be talking about on the next episode, which is huge. We'll get into an informed group conscience.
That's right.
That
informed
was huge.
Is right.
Man, that was
yes.
huge, right? And because I didn't really understand what any of that was until, like I said, I was having those situations with the home group, and I remember him asking me, well, is it an informed group conscious? I had no clue. And that's another, speaking of, the AA group pamphlet was freaking unbelievable.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Very useful.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, this has been cool, dude. I appreciate you. Is there anything you want to finish it off with before we?
No, I'm just so grateful. I hope I did some justice to the topic.
Yeah, man. It's been fun.
And I certainly appreciate and being asked. I'm not sure I know much, but I'm willing to talk about it.
I appreciate you, buddy. Yeah.
Oh, you back at you.
Yeah, and just stay on here, and we'll chat after this. Thank you, buddy.
Sounds good. Mm-hmm.
Have a wonderful night.
Hello. Thank you for listening to 3 Legacies Recovery Recordings. If you enjoy our program, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share with a friend. We're also self-supporting, so feel free to contribute to the channel through Venmo at Recovery Recordings 615. Please note that the views expressed on this podcast are solely our individual views and do not represent any official stance of any 12-step program. We are not affiliated with any specific recovery organization, and this content should not be considered as professional advice for alcoholism or addiction.